take home the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Wu for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Canada and the rest of the world. You're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo. Well, living now in St. Catharines, Ontario. Got a guest host out here. We're dialing up the phones, bringing it over from the East Coast. What's up, Kelsey?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's been a little while since I've been on here.
Yeah, what's been happening in the East Coast, first of all? What's going on over there?
You know, kind of the same old thing. There's lots of local tournaments these days. We play a lot of 4-on-4, so we've been playing some 4-on-4 tournaments. Can't believe it's already November. So, you know, we're kind of right into the off-season, like, local tournament scene now. So that's what we've been up to mostly. But what about you?
Before I even say what I'm up to, is the 4-on-4, can you clarify? Because I've seen this in the East Coast. It's on the hard gym floor, isn't it?
So we do both ways, but we do mostly play on the gym floor. So we just don't have a lot of turf. There's not a lot of, we don't have a lot of indoor turf. And the little bit that there is in Halifax, for example, youth soccer basically monopolizes like 95% of the bookings. So we play on hardwood courts. We have a really nice facility called the Canada Game Centre that has 3 regulation-sized basketball courts that have nice floors. So we play there. But yeah, we play 4-on-4 continuous, which is also different than, you know, like the C4UC format is speed point. So there's, you know, you stop in between each point. But here we play continuous. So it's a really intense game. And you basically play for other than the 1 minute half, you play for the full 55 minutes straight. You sub on the fly and it's on the court. So it's so fun, to be completely honest. And this is probably one of my hottest takes in Ultimate. It's my favorite form of Ultimate is 4-on-4 on court.
That sounds crazy. First of all, do people lay out on the court or what's going on here? I know
Some people do. Yeah, I don't. I wear a knee brace, and the few times I've accidentally hit the ground, it really hurts hitting the knee brace, like the metal knee brace off the wood floor onto my knee. So I don't, but some people do. And actually, if they do it properly, they still slide really nicely. But it's really, really fast. And I think that it's one of the reasons it's really fun is because you can jump really high and you can kind of, like, if you were a basketball player, which I was growing up, you know, I feel pretty comfortable moving around on a court. So I guess if you didn't play basketball or a court sport, it might feel really unfamiliar, but it's so fun. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's making its way out to Ontario because 4-on-4.
If you guys have turf facilities, then it probably never will.
I will say though, speed point, that does happen. Like if you play like indoor 6-on-6 or 7-on-7, which I used to play in the Open League hosted by the Toronto Ultimate Club, and that would be speed point. So you line up. You always got to sub on offense, folks. I know a lot of people like to sub on D, but you got to
That's
sub
not called
on the
speed
offense.
point. That's the opposite. It's called continuous. Speed point is when there's a break in between each point.
Oh,
That's what we call it.
We call it speed point, and then Quebec rules is like the stoppage of the 4-on-4.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah. So we play all continuous out here generally in the winter. And yeah, it's that sub on the fly. You should sub on offense, but if you're strategic, you can sub really well on defense. But that's big brain Ultimate, so I wouldn't expect you to understand.
Oh, that's tough. Coming on the show and just roasting me. I appreciate that. Back to your question. I mean, I've been working on my new job that I still, for some reason, haven't shared. But yeah, that's been very busy.
Why don't you share it now?
No. I gotta share like on the. I'm basically waiting for like gear to come in before I can share it. That's why.
I see. And there'll be a big LinkedIn reveal.
I actually paused my LinkedIn for that reason. I like deactivated it so that like it wasn't still running as like I was in a different organization. So, anywho, I moved into my new place. I'm not sure how the sound quality is. It sounds kind of echoey in here because it's so empty right now. But upstairs apartment in an old place here in St. Catharines in one of the richest neighborhoods. So not saying I'm rich. It's just a rich neighborhood. So I'm pretty stoked of what this place will be like in the summer. It backs onto a trail, the Bruce Trail. So yeah, it's nice vibes out here in St. Catharines. I don't think you've ever been Have you been to the Niagara region? Niagara Falls?
Yeah, I went to Niagara Falls when I was like 15 with my grandparents. So I remember it being nice and very kitschy. But I don't, is how close is St. Catharines to Niagara Falls? Like I have no concept of where anything is in Southern Ontario.
I think like 30, 40 minutes. People
I see.
in that area are going to laugh. But
so you're probably really close to the border then.
Yeah. Like I'll share this. My plan is to play mostly in the States next summer. So my goal
that is so fun.
My goal is to play for Team Buffalo. I know there's someone on Buffalo Lake Effect messaged us before. Hopefully you're listening. Eon Joyce. I am planning to try out for Buffalo Lake Effect and their open
That's
team
so
Buffalo
fun.
Frostbite. So I've already applied for a Nexus Pass. And I'm hoping to get myself over to the border here and play some Frisbee. So
that's amazing.
Okay, that's a lot of catch up. We do like that. Mm-hmm. But people are here to talk beach. That's what we're going to do. I guess that's kind of the news. That's the main event. We're going to jump into it right after this break.
Hey friends, this is Morgan Hibbert from Vancouver Furious George and Team Canada. And you're listening to the Huckin podcast. Your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate. Giddy up.
All right. Beach championships have come and gone. Hopefully you got an Ulti-World subscription. You had a chance to watch a little bit more than I was able to with all the work I was in. Kelsey got a chance to watch some games. And hopefully, like I said, you and the audience did as well. So we're going to break it down based on the schedule that you see on the website. So we're going to start Open Division. I think it's the second most teams, right, of the tournament, 10 teams. Yes. Kelsey's going to be dropping a recap of the tournament, so head to ultiworld.com to check that out. By the time this episode drops, I assume the article will be out. But
I think
anywho, 10 teams. Canada finishes fourth, and I mean they go 7-5, but they finish fourth though. So key games where they lost, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the Open Division had a crazy schedule, in my opinion. So because they only had 10 teams, it was a really interesting format where they chose to do a full round robin as the first portion of the schedule. So before any teams entered the bracket, they had played 9 games, which personally I think is kind of insane. Maybe not the schedule that I would want to make or a schedule that I would want to play. But yeah, the Canadian Open team went 6-3 in pool play. So, that was respectable. I think that got them the fourth place heading into the bracket. They had losses. They unfortunately started with 2 losses. So they lost to, Spain Open and US Open, which actually were the 2 eventual finalists. So, hindsight 2020, that's actually not that bad, but that probably felt like a less fun way to start the tournament. And then they did also rack up a loss later in the tournament to Great Britain Open. It was still within pool play, to clarify. It was later in the tournament, but because the pool play was 9 games, it was still within pool play when they lost to Great Britain. So as I said, yeah, that kind of sent them into the playoff bracket as the 4, I believe. In their quarterfinal, they had to play the Philippines, who had a pretty good showing over the week in terms of kind of their country as a whole across several divisions. But they did manage to win that game 11-8. And then, unfortunately, they were on the same side of the bracket as the USA team, which is truthfully never where you want to be.
Unless you're France.
I hate to pump. Yeah,
which
true.
we'll talk about.
I hate to pump the USA's, tires too much, but their squads were really, really good. So obviously, ideally, it would have been nice to end up on the other side. So you know what, though? Canada had a really good match in that game. They actually had the lead. They started, they went up a break early. They were really clicking. Like they did really, really well. US ended up breaking back, I think, right before half. And then US broke 2 more times early in the second half and late in the second half to clinch the victory. But it was a 12-10 loss, I believe, which is incredibly respectable. I think probably the US's closest game all week, US Open team's closest game, I should say. And then they had to face, so they obviously went to the bronze medal.
Maybe they call that on the
match
East Coast, third medal.
They might, yeah. No, they had to play the bronze medal match against Great Britain, which was a really good team. Great Britain had, all the usual suspects, Justin Ford, Connor McHale, all that crew. And so they did lose 11-10 to Great Britain. So that said, it did mean that they didn't make the podium, but I think overall they actually had a really strong showing. The games that they lost, they were tight, and the games that they won, they were looking really good. So overall, I'm sure they're disappointed with not getting a medal, but I think Canadian Open team did quite well.
Yeah, I mean, the pool play format, I remember receiving a text from someone associated with the team, and they're like, this thing's crazy out here. Like, all the pool play games, like, normally you don't see that. I guess maybe with seeding or things they decide to do that. But, it's definitely tough.
I meant that they played 12 games over 5 days.
Hey, shorter games, but sand is hard out here.
Oh my God, it's so hard. I play beach tournaments every summer, and we play probably 5 or 6 games in 2 days. And I usually can't go to work on Monday. It's really, really tiring. And they're shorter games, and it's technically a smaller field, although the field at World Beach was way bigger than I expected it to be. That is draining. Those men matching players must be so tired.
Hopefully they're having a nice drink there. I know some. I bet you some players. I know some are still out in Cali hanging out. So nice travel, nice. Kind of like after USAU's. A shout out in terms of stats to Mr. JJ Edwards. 41 points, 32 goals.
Yeah, I think he was in the top 10. I'm pretty top three actually for stats in the whole division.
Goals. So second in goals is JJ Edwards, and then Thomas Edmonds. He was 7th with 26 assists. So Thomas Edmonds coming off a club victory there with I'm not going to say the asterisk. Some people are going to say that out here. I'm not going to bring that up, but he.
You also missed Quinn Snyder, who actually. Yeah. Hard to miss, actually, that guy. But he had 11 assists and 24 goals. So he had 35 in total.
Is he in the top 10 then?
Actually, no. So he's not in the top 10 still. He still missed out on the top 10, but he was the second on Team Canada.
Hey, close though. Quinn, you were close. You were 13th.
Yeah. Super high.
Spirit-wise, we always talk about Spirit, especially when it comes to international competition. So Canada finishes middle of the pack. We like to see that. They get 10.83. So their only down score was 1.83 fouls and body contact, which honestly kind of checks out because we know how Canadians play and how the rest of the world plays. Yep. So it kind of checks out that that's the category they got the lowest in.
And it is, it's nice to see they did get a particularly high score in attitude and self-control. They got a 2.42. I will also say that all the scores in the open division are quite close. The lowest is 9.92 and the highest is 12.10. So that's a really tight range of scores. Everybody seemed to have a reasonably good showing for Spirit. So that's nice to see. It is interesting. Partway through the week, I was looking at kind of the scores and the Spirit scores because I had to write the recap for this tournament, and therefore I had to kind of keep an eye on how things were progressing. And partway through the week, Canada Open was in the middle of the pack for Spirit in their division, and every other team was dead last.
Wait, really?
Every other Canadian team.
Every other Canadian. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, that's what you're saying.
I think they all improved. I'm pretty sure as we look through, they all improved a little bit. And it's like you said, there are differences in just styles of play between like North America and Europe and other places. But I thought that was an interesting observation. But but credit to the Open team for doing well through the tournament and just kind of having a not notable Spirit score, which is kind of what you want.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about Spirit and Open Canada teams anymore because sometimes you still get that. But we're going to shift gears to women's, a bit of a smaller division, 7 teams. Kelsey, you can manage this schedule. This is a little bit more schedule chaos because there's like a pool A and then it splits into a pool B. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, so this schedule was interesting too. So it started again that everyone was in the same pool and they did a round robin. So right off the top, they all had 6 games each. Then they got split into a top 3 and a bottom 4. And the top 3, so in each of those pools, they just played each other again. So therefore, every game in those pools, Pool B and Pool C is what they called them, were rematches, which is kind of an interesting kind of mental thing through a tournament to have to keep playing the same team over and over again. And it just kind of worked out that some of these pool play games were pretty meaningless for the standings. And then how it worked is that the top three, who were the top three out of round robin, stayed the top three in whatever order they finished the their second pool. And then the top team from the bottom pool also got to join them as the fourth team into the bracket, and then they went straight into semifinals. So it resulted in teams playing a ton of games again. So in total, all the women's teams played, the top women's teams played 10 games, and I think the bottom women's teams would have played 11. So it ended up in a ton of games again and a lot of rematches. So, for example, the Canadian women ended up playing Spain 3 times and the US 3 times. So it must have been interesting to kind of go through, because the first time they saw each team, it obviously mattered because it was their first time seeing them, and it was pool play, and you want to try to get the highest seed you can coming out of that round robin. But then the second time they played them, it was less important because Canada and Spain and the US had already all secured one of the top 3 positions, and US had already secured the top position by the time Canada and Spain had played each other for the second time. And then they played them again in bracket play because Canada and Spain ended up being the 2-3, so they had a semi, and then Canada won, and they had to play US again. So it was 2 teams that they triple rematched against. They ended up going 2-1 against Spain and 0-3 against the US. But that's a tough schedule, and I think they got better and better against the US every time they played them. So, that's something. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. The second time they played the US, I've heard that they didn't really try that one. It literally did not matter at all. I'm pretty sure Britt DeSantos even sat for the game.
That would make sense. That would honestly make sense because
that one's kind of a throwaway game. It didn't really matter, but they did improve their showing in the next game and had a really good final against them. So, they ended up with the silver medal, which I think they should be very proud of. They played a really good tournament. It was really fun to watch. They actually had a lot of streamed games, and I had a couple of friends on the women's team. So in between my different tournament games that I had myself this weekend, I was making sure to watch them a lot, and it was really, really fun.
I also like the geographic diversity of this team because they were.
You love to see it.
I see some East Coasters out here. I see some Quebec representation. I see some, I think, of Manitoba in there too, Sam Burge. So there's a mix. Obviously, a lot of Toronto. And then when you look at Toronto, you got to look at kind of the stat leaders. Anushka Baudry having previously played in Toronto, obviously Britt living in Toronto, topped on the leaderboards. And I know B Ultimate this is not an ad, folks, but B Ultimate put out like a graphic and like what they combined to do at the tournament. That's pretty crazy. Like,
it was crazy. I think it was 86 stats.
I mean, I can't even do the math right now, but yeah.
They were crushing it. It was actually so fun to watch them play together. And it started in the first game, and it just went through every single game. I can only imagine that every team was game planning for trying to stifle that duo, and nobody could. Even in the final, when obviously the US has a really deep team and they could probably rotate defenders who are going to be on Baudry and DeSantos, they still led the game in stats. Baudry had 4 assists, 2 goals. DeSantos had 2 assists, 3 goals. So it was honestly a joy to watch them play together, and it looked like they were having so much fun playing together too.
So maybe this means they're going to eventually play club again together. That's all we're going to try to.
But doesn't Baudry live in Australia?
I don't even know where she's living right now because she did tell me she's going back to Australia. So played with Ellipsis at US Open, which was also fun to call that game. But shout out to those stat makers out here. And also, I'm going to say this for all because I know some people on this team that this is their first Team Canada. So congrats to any of those who are on all the teams that this is their first Team Canada, because it's pretty cool. I know Beach doesn't get the same notoriety, but hey, you still get to wear the Maple Leaf on your chest, so and have your last name on the jersey. So congrats to you before we continue. So we talked about those 2 stat makers, but Crystal DeSantos also had 20 points out there. So a few people in double digits. And then spirit-wise, I'm looking at their scores. They received a lot of 10s and never received anything below 10s. So they're looking good spirit-wise.
And that's why it was funny. So, Canada women's were low, but the whole division was quite high. So in that case, when you're at 10 or above, you're doing great. A 10 is an average game. So they seem to do particularly well in communication, which is nice. But the whole division, again, similar to the Open, had a very small range of spirit scores. So it sounds like it was just generally quite a spirited week, which is nice to see.
I think just the beach vibes, beach vibes.
Yeah, everyone's chill.
Like you see on the showcase games, right? Like when you watch, like especially, I think it was the mixed masters final. There was like a lot of people. I know Danny got out there on the live stream, putting it on the Instagram, and like a lot of people were just chilling beachside.
I was surprised there were no stands. There was just people. It looked like there was like a tent area, right? Like on that one side. Yeah.
And a lot of chairs, and then obviously some of the earlier games of the week when you watch, it's just empty. But obviously during the finals, it's gonna be more packed. So. Congrats to women's, the best finish here for Canada.
Tied for the best finish.
Theo, come on, you can't.
Little preview.
You can't keep forgetting about these Masters players. As a Masters player myself, and so are you. We can't be forgetting about the Masters.
Exactly.
That's true.
Old people are people too, Theo.
Yeah, the disrespect. I'm sorry, Masters players, because I am one of you as well. So we're going to talk mixed. They went 7-2, but come 5th. So. It's tough when you go to a tournament, you only drop 2 games, but then you come 5th.
Yeah. So mixed was a little bit more of a traditional tournament format, I would say. So there's 14 teams. So it was the biggest division, which while the 14 teams is the biggest division, but I digress. So they started in 2 pools, just a traditional pool A, pool B, 7 teams each, round robin that way. And I think Canada did really well in that initial pool. Let me just see. Yeah, so they went 5-1. They only lost to Spain. Spain just overall had a really, really good showing this week.
Yes.
You can see about it in my recap article. But they ended up on the podium for all 3 divisions, which is really, really impressive.
Wait, all 3 senior divisions, right? Because can't forget all the Masters.
Yes. True. I don't think they were in the Masters.
I'm just bugging you about the Masters. No. That's
all. But anyways, yeah. So they had a really good week. So that was not, that's a reasonable team to lose to, I suppose. But yeah, so Canada Mixed went 5-1 in their pool play. So they only had their 1 loss there. But then unfortunately, their other loss was in their quarterfinal. So that's how you kind of have only 2 losses on the week, but you end up only finishing 5th. Which credit to them, they bounced back. So they lost to France Mixed, which is a very interesting team, because what did France Mixed go on and do in the next round? They prevented the USA sweep.
We love that. We love it.
When I wrote the preview, we do love it. It was so fun. If I can recommend anyone going back to watch a game, go watch that USA. I know this is a Huckin' podcast, but go watch that USA France game. It was like the cleanest game of Beach Ultimate that's ever happened. There was 3 turns in the whole game.
By the way, Felix.
From Hive?
Did a really good breakdown. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So please, I don't always watch that content, but because I'm not a fan of the hex system, but I will watch that video because it's good. So you should check it out too.
Yeah. So that was a really interesting match. And so again, when you're going to lose to someone, losing to the eventual champions is probably the way to do it. So that, there's nothing to hang their heads about. Canada bounced back from that loss, and they ended up beating, so they kind of went into like a 5-holes bracket. They ended up beating Mexico, and then they beat Colombia in a really tight game, actually. And they finished 5th overall. So 5th out of 14, that's nothing to be ashamed about. That was a really good game, or really good showing as well. So that was kind of what happened for the mixed division. But the mixed division was, like I said, the biggest division of the tournament at 14 teams. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that the mixed division had a team from the Ukraine, which I think is just incredible considering the circumstances. They finished 9th. I think that regardless of their finish, it was stunning that they were there, and it was so nice to see people who are coming from that situation and being able to come and do something that they love and enjoy the time on the beach. And they also finished the tournament 5-0 in their last 5 games. So that's really nice. I thought that was really incredible to see a team from Ukraine there.
They did I know Danny had posted this on her social media at some point, but they did like a GoFund. They did something to raise money. So I don't know if that's still happening, but You can definitely check it out on their socials. Thank you for bringing that up, because that was the only team that they brought in. But like, I remember they talked about on Deep Look as well. Like, it's pretty cool that happened. So
Totally.
I also think something that stood out to me as I'm looking at the stat sheet is how many people have double digits. Like, it's like a lot of balanced scoring out here. I'm going to count 2, 4, 6, 12. Is that right? 12 players in double digits for the mixed team. So just a lot of people getting
really nice
involved. Jocelyn Proby, a little shout out. I don't know who that is, but Jocelyn Proby, 13 points out here. But yeah, just really balanced scoring. I know Cam Vernon finishes with 24 and just outside the top 10 leaderboard, but it's good to see balanced scoring, especially on mixed, when a lot of female matching players are also in the double digits and close to the leaders. You can tell that's going to be a balanced team. And some of them, looking at this roster, a lot of them do play single gender, but the fact that they could come in, I'm trying to see who actually plays mixed on this. Lynn has played with Union, but a lot of them have played, and Carrie Holst plays for Red Flag, but a lot of them play for other like single gender teams. So the fact they can come together on a mixed team and make that happen is pretty cool. So I know fifth, not the best, but kudos for some of that stuff. They did receive some 9s, though, I will say that, in Spirit. There's just a really fun.
Yeah, they were actually second lowest in the division, but their average was a 10. And so I think it's one of those things where second lowest in the division probably paints the wrong picture. An average of 10 means you had an average of average games. So I think that's totally reasonable. Their low section was fouls and body contact, which again is not surprising considering the kind of North American style of play. I'm not condoning. I mean, I think it's always good to kind of reflect. And when you are playing with diff, you need to play with diff rules. But even that was not a particularly. I think they probably only got a couple of ones in that
twice,
category.
Yeah, only
it wasn't
2 1s there.
Yeah, so it wasn't like egregious by any sense. So the only team that was lower than were the TC Pandas, but like I said, that was the only team that was even below 10. So again, it seemed like a highly spirited division. The range of scores was basically from 10 to 12, with Japan mixed being the top. So I think that's a really respectable showing in wins and losses, in spirit, in score distribution, all of that.
Yeah, and TC Pandas, for those that don't know, that's the team from China, right? I think I remember Charlie talking about that. TC Pandas, China, and there's another Singapore team as well in there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I just find this comment particularly funny because you can see what teams write. I don't know if they know this, but your comments are public, folks. So Great Britain Mix commented, there were multiple times we heard negative comments about our defense from your team on the sideline. We appreciate that you're trying to support your team, but we felt that it could have been done in a more positive and sportsmanlike way. So I'm kind of curious what they said now, just in that game.
That is interesting. It's it's one of those things where I think we all do it. We'll all yell like,
I don't think they were yelling like not a thrower
or something like that. Like push them under or something. I think we all do it, but if we all hear it against ourselves, we're like, what the hell? Like, so it's pretty funny. We had some moments like that with Salty sometimes where people would yell mismatch, and then I would recognize who they were yelling the mismatch about, and I'd be like, hey, they think you're a mismatch. Like, go punish them.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So I don't know if I necessarily consider that unsportsmanlike. I think it's more funny than anything.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
who knows? Maybe they were saying something much more cruel.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to be a fly on the not the wall, but fly on the beach there in a grain of sand.
Fly on the beach.
So we're gonna jump in Masters. Hey, we're gonna talk about you too. Don't worry. Masters mixed. I mean, I have to talk about this. I think they talked about this on their social media, but you can't talk about this team without talking about what happened in the first game, because I got a message from the Charlie Azerhood, and I don't even know exactly what he said. I'm going to look it up. I think he said something like, what is going on here? Because your team just got bageled. I'm not sure if you know that. And I was like, oh, dang.
Oh, I do know that.
Yeah, he said Canada Mixed Masters blanked by USA. That's tough. And I'm like, I hear you. That is tough.
Yeah. It's I honestly don't even know what to say. I just assumed that they did that on purpose somehow.
It was
some
streamed,
reason.
Wasn't it? Or no?
No, it wasn't. Good. To be honest, I wish it was.
No,
but
don't say that.
It just would be interesting. I just want to know what happened. I assumed that it was on purpose for some big master plan. But I I don't get the impression it was based on how many memes that they posted about it, which I do love people that can laugh at themselves. So that was great. Yeah, what a start to the week for that team. But they ended up doing just fine through the week. So they also had 7 teams in their division. So that meant that they started with the full round robin. So they played every team and they went 5-1. We obviously know what happened in the one. And then they did the exact same thing as women's again, where they go into a top 3 and bottom 4. You play people again. So they had to play the US again with a good showing that time, by the way. And then they had to play Germany again. And then they went right into the bracket and played Germany again for their semifinal, I believe.
Was that back-to-back, though, like right away?
I don't know if it was in the same day or not. It was back-to-back, like in terms of, I think, the timing of the games. But I don't know if it was like one evening and then the next morning. But yeah, just a lot of seeing the same teams over and over again, which I imagine would be kind of tiring. But oh, sorry, I'm mistaken. Actually, the last game that they played in their round robin for the power pool was US, so it wouldn't have been back to back. So it would have been Germany, US, Germany, and then US again in the final. So yeah, a little hint there. But Canada did make the final. They played against the US team, and honestly, they had a great showing in that game. It was 13-9. The US ended up breaking first, but then Canada broke right back. US went on a little run before the first half was over, but by the end of the first half, it was still 7-6 for the US. So that's, they were still very much in it. The US did come out and kind of go on a little run after half. And then Canada got one break back, but then just traded points to the end. So it was 13-9. But a really respectable game, an incredibly respectable game compared to the bagel from earlier in the week.
That's what I'm saying. It was meta. It was all planned.
It's crazy. Yeah, they just didn't want to give away their tricks.
The atmosphere was good, though. You saw the atmosphere out there. It was looking like it was a fun time out there.
It looked really fun. Yeah. So it was great. So we did get another silver medal in that division, which is awesome.
Yeah, Brett Matsuka's interview was great after the game. I know him personally, so it's just fun to see his personality like out there. And shout out to Katie and Chris Mazer. I think they make a good duo. I like Chris Mazer on the mic, so hearing him call games is nice. Looking at their score distribution, some more double digits, 9 of them in double digits here. Felix Antoine Dague, I enjoy watching him play after I found a little bit more about him when I watched Quebec Regionals. I'm like, this guy's still slinging out here with the adults and he's killing it. And now he was doing it on the beach. TJ Reeds leads the team with 19 assists, and to finish with 25 points. So I'm trying to see where their top female matching player finished. Looks like Yannick St. Cyr out of Quebec with 13 goals. Am I right there? Yeah, it looks like it.
I think so, yeah.
There's some even distribution there. Some people close to
totally.
To 10.
Everybody's on the board, which is great.
That's not the truth for every team, though,
really
I'm pretty
good.
sure. I don't think.
It often isn't, and I think that's something to commend a coach and the team on. To have everybody contributing. I don't know how much coaches tighten lines. I don't know how much you can really tighten lines in a beach game because people are going to be exhausted. I think that I know watching the women's final that they definitely tightened the lines in that game. And I honestly think that they felt the effects of that late in the game because the top players looked completely gassed. They were still doing really well despite how exhausted they looked. But, I think there's like calculations to be made there. But I think it's really great when you see a team that everybody has contributed on the stat board. It means everybody was a valued team member. And so that's really nice to see. Spirit-wise, this division is...
what's up with the Spirit standings here? Like, the scores are super inflated. One team is close to 12. Like, what the heck?
The Spirit scores are... I think you're right. Maybe everybody's just feeling really great on the beach, ridiculous. Or maybe everyone's too slow that they can't actually hit each other as much. But, so Canada Mixed Masters was technically second last, but that was with a 10.6. Yeah. So that's an excellent Spirit score. There's based to me, in my opinion, looking at these scores. So the range is from 10.44 to 11.9. There's basically nothing to be learned from those Spirit scores.
They're fake news.
Obviously, it was spirited. Obviously, everyone was fine. There's nothing crazy or notable. Clearly, everybody had a great time, and everybody felt like team teams were being respectable opponents. So that's great. That's the story. That's what's to be taken away, I suppose.
Yeah, mixed masters, everyone's just there for vibes. They like, some of them have kids. They're like, I'm away from the kids, hopefully, just hanging out in California with my friends or people I just became friends with. So they're just vibing, having a good time. So
how could you not
be? That's totally
sick.
Checks
like
out.
Beach Ultimate all week.
So
yeah,
kind of surprising. No Masters women's or Masters Open. Oh, well, I guess they already had a hard time getting teams. So I mean, you're not going to expand the divisions.
I think that was what. Yeah, from what I understand, Canada was more than willing to send teams in those divisions, but other countries were not. So I don't know what the minimum. I've heard that the minimum is at least 3 different countries for world events, although having only 3 would be insane, obviously. So I don't know what the actual cutoff would be, because there's the minimum that they'd be willing to accept, but then also the minimum that teams would be willing to travel for. And so 7 was really small already. So I guess maybe any smaller than that.
Here's my thought. Let's put this experiment to the test, because I know people have said this before. If the U.S. put in a B team, a quote unquote B team of the people that got cut in each division, could they still medal? I think the answer is yes.
Yes.
I don't know if it's 1-2.
I think for
but
sure. Especially for beach where the rosters are smaller. The U.S. teams, the U.S. rosters were incredible, and there were still tons of people not on those rosters. It's not like those rosters were definitively the best 15 players in each of those divisions or anything.
They had tryouts too, right?
Yeah, they have actual tryouts, which is really nice. They go to a beach and try out instead of filling out a Google form.
No comment on that.
I'll comment on it. But it's I just think that the US puts together really good teams, and there's many reasons for that. And obviously, probably the biggest one is the depth of players. So would I bet, USA B against the field? Maybe not. But USA B in any of these divisions, in my opinion, would still have a great shot. They would still be very good teams. So
that's why that makes the win by France like way more monumental.
Extra
that like
sweet.
People don't realize, like they are that good, and it's like it's awesome to see a team like France take it here. So we're gonna jump in last division, Grandmasters. We didn't forget about you. I know you're last in the episode, but hey, just the way that the order goes on the website. So that's no preferential treatment here. So Canada goes 6-4. They come away with some, what do they call it, dirty gold out there, bronze. So break down did they do a full pool, or is it the same? It's probably the same thing as the women's, right? And
it is, yeah. So it's the same as the women's and the Masters mix. 7 teams break into top 3, bottom 4. The top team of the bottom 4 gets to come up and play into the bracket, starting at the semis. So for the round robin, Canada went 4-2 through that. So that's that's very respectable. I think they had losses just to the Philippines in their opening game, which the Philippines, again, I think I mentioned earlier, were a strong team throughout the tournament for several divisions. They lost by 1 in their opening match against them, and then they did lose to USA. What else is new, I suppose? But then they still secured one of the top 3 spots, so they got to be in Pool B. And then they did their little round robin with their power pool, and then they went right into semifinals. So in semifinals, they had to match up against the Philippines again. Again, it was a 1-point loss. It was a nail biter for sure. But then they did manage to beat France and come home with the bronze. So that's still awesome. A bronze is a bronze. A medal is a medal. Like you said, they're on Team Canada. They got to wear the Team Canada jerseys with their names on the back, and they get to have a world bronze medal. So that's awesome.
Yeah, they played the Philippines 3 times, and their games were decided by 1. So Canada.
Yeah. So that's a great match.
Canada wins that middle game that some would say might be inconsequential because they would meet them again. Congrats to Canada for coming in bronze. I love the score distribution here. Lots of people in double digits. 3 members. Only 4 people non-double digits, and 3 of them are either 2 or 1 goal or 1 point away from getting to 10. So love that. There was some East Coast representation, I'm pretty sure, on this team.
There is, yeah. Gavin Gray. He is a long-time Halifax Ultimate member, has captained a lot of teams out here, and I think it was his first time on a Team Canada, and it was really, really nice to cheer him on from here.
Yeah,
and he did great. He had 10 assists and 9 goals, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I see some Quebec. Matthew Bordelot leading the charge with 25. I mean, there's a few right behind him, like Warren Tang with 24. So there's definitely some Quebec people. See some Ontario names I recognize as well, and then legend Andy Collins out on the West Coast. So nice to see kind of some more geographic diversity. Spirit-wise, we're going to break that down. They only got a 9 from France. Otherwise, they did pretty well, 10s and 11s. So once again, the Spirit scores seem pretty high out here because they finished 6th, so second last, but they get 10.3. So once again, the older folks, they don't want to deal with the Spirit. They're just like I'm done with it. The one thing I'll say is I'm looking at the U.S. Roster. I only recognize a couple people, perhaps because they were there before my time. I recognize Bart Watson. I recognize Joel Wooten because he played for Chain Lightning back in the day. But every single player on the U.S. roster is above 10 for points. So that is wild. I mean, they probably just score a lot. So they're just like, hey, let's let other people have a chance.
They made it to 13 every game except the final. So
yeah, I like it going to 13. By the way, I like that. Like it's going to 13. It kind of makes sense. I don't think it should go. Do you remember the days when world tournaments were going to 17? Like that was the thing.
No, that's
there
crazy.
There was a time when that took place. Like it was going to 17. So if I'm not mistaken, that Canada-Japan game, did that go to 17? I can't remember now. But there were games that definitely went to 17. So that was a long time ago. I like the 13. Beach is fun. I don't play very often. And I think that's what's also going to make the results take it with a grain of salt too, because depending where you are in Canada, there's just not that much beach frisbee. Like, where are you playing beach frisbee out here in certain communities? You're not. So, take the results.
It was interesting to see that too, just from other countries. So, like I said, Spain, the Philippines, they all did really, really well. And you got to wonder if it's because they have access to the most beautiful beaches. That would definitely help. It's such a different game playing on the beach. Your throws have to be so much more precise. You cannot lead people the same way that you normally do. Defense is very different. I mean, it's just so draining. Like I said, we play a couple of beach tournaments out here every summer, and they're so fun. I love Beach Ultimate, but they are so exhausting. I will say it's actually easier on the body, I find, than any other format in terms of like it's more physically exhausting, but it's much less painful on your joints and on kind of like, when I play a 4-on-4 tournament on court, like I just did this past weekend, like my knees are really sore after because I've just been stomping on a court all weekend. Whereas beach has like a lot of give and you're playing in bare feet or in the sand socks and that's really nice. So
that's what I was going to say. That's why you got to stop playing on the court. That's what I'm hearing because
no, that's why you got to start. It's so fun. You get to wear your basketball shoes and just run around and jump. It's great.
You got some sneakerheads out there in the East Coast. Like they got some people rocking the Jordans while they're playing like court frisbee or what?
Yeah, I wear Giannis sneakers.
Oh, dang, baller over here. So we got to get
it's partly because it's really hard to find women's athletic footwear out here. It's horrible.
Wait,
and
really?
So I buy little boys basketball sneakers.
Is there like a shortage or something, or they just don't make it?
I don't know. They just like don't stock them. It's same with soccer cleats. I go to the store and I'll ask like, hey, can I have any women's soccer cleats in size 7.5, which is the most common size, by the way. And they might have one pair. It's crazy. It's horrible. So anyways, my life hack for anybody listening, if you wear a women's size 7 or 7.5, you can wear a kid's size 5.5 or 6. And the shoes are like half the price. And that's how I buy all of my cleats and basketball sneakers.
I mean, you thought this was just a Frisbee podcast, but now we're doing
But here we are,
so.
shopping recommendations.
Yeah, so that concludes the episode. We're still working our way through college stuff, so a couple more teams got to send us some things, so we'll eventually get that out there. Still hoping to have some of the college coaches on. We haven't forgot about you, McMaster and Queens. Kelsey, I'm hoping to have you on a couple more times. I know we got a PAOK in the... Are you going to that tournament, by the way?
I am. I was just going to ask.
Wait, so let me see you come on and talk about it. Okay, sick.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to hear from me again? Yeah, I am going to PAOK with Stello, and there's a lot of Canadian teams going, so I think there'll be lots to talk about.
Yeah, I'm a little bit jealous. I'm not going to lie. I did get asked to go be on the mic for it, but I had to respectfully decline. So just because of work and the timing of the situation. But, I'd rather be in Dominican Republic than out here in the cold. But it is the way it crumbles here. So enjoy the Dominican. We're going to talk about this tournament because there's, like you said, a lot of Canadian teams going. I'm hoping to see some Canadian teams on the podium. Pony is going, correct, from the U.S. That is so fun. I really hope all the Canadian Open teams that go, they get a chance to play them because it's not going to be pretty, but you get to play a legendary team and people you probably end up watching on YouTube or ESPN or Ulti World or whatever. So
maybe Pony can actually make the semis for this one.
Oh, that's tough. I don't think there's any Pony players listening to this podcast, but if they do,
I highly doubt it.
But if they do, they just got some shade thrown on them. Yeah, that's tough. Kelsey also does some writing for clubs. So if you are interested in kind of the club awards, those have been coming out. I want to see some Canadians out on the list. I don't know if any of them have shown up yet, but
I voted for some Canadians, so we'll see.
We'll see what happens. So thank you, Kelsey, for coming on. Today we are not going to do a subs only, so subscribers, sorry for this week. Maybe we'll do something next week, but thank you for coming on. I don't know what time it is over there. It's probably a little bit later. It's 1 hour difference, right? Am I right?
It is, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's not too late, but Kelsey, any final words for the millions and millions of people listening at home?
Ooh, that's a lot of pressure. No, I just want to say congrats to all the Canadian teams that were at World Beach. You know, it was a smaller event than it normally is. You know, maybe some people don't care about beach as much. I think screw all that. You were on Team Canada. It's amazing. You did great things. And I think you should be very proud. So congrats to the players. Congrats to the coaches. It's always nice to see Team Canada's do great on grass, beach, whatever it is.
Or court.
So, or court.
You get to wear your TC. You know, at Nationals, I will say, this is the last thing I'll say. At CUC, there's a lot of people wearing like their TC like T-shirt, and it was just from B. It's just a simple, once again, not an ad. It's just a simple TC like with the logo on their like chest, and I was like, that's the flex right there. So if you're on the beach team, hey, you get to do that too, and you get to wear the hat. So whenever you go play league or wherever, you get to remind people that you played on Team Canada. So once again, first timers, congrats to you for representing Team Canada. I know there's there were trials for U20s, and then Masters trials going to be happening as well. So more Team Canada is going to be assembled. I believe this is what I heard from the grapevine. Like WBUC Team Canada invites were sent out. That's what I heard. So hopefully we get some teams announced soon.
Yeah, I think they were sent. They were supposed to be sent out yesterday. Actually, now that I think about what date it is, interesting. That's very exciting. And so I think they have like a week or so to reply, and then they'll fill in any gaps and so I guess we'll probably get a roster soon-ish, which is exciting.
I mean, all I'll say is I've heard people, or I know invites have gone out for things, and then I don't hear about it for you don't hear about it for like a month. So don't hold your breath that it's coming out next week, folks. It's probably going to come out later.
No.
Okay. That's the final point. Kelsey Hayden, I'm Theo One. I don't know why I'm signing off like I'm on the commentary booth, but we haven't commentated together, Kelsey. That is something we have yet to do.
I know.
We're going to make it happen.
Someday we need to go to the same event.
Pro Champs or something. Okay, we'll figure it out. All right, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye.